Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So I've been called out today. One of my viewers has called me up, Mufti Abu Bakr Korolia, and he's asked me to come and help him set up a raised bed in his garden so he can have a go at growing some vegetables. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a raised bed all the way from how we build a raised bed and get that bed planted with some vegetables. So the start of our raised bed, we're using deck boards to make our raised bed. They're 1 inch thick deck boards, so they're nice thick material, they're pressure treated. And today's pressure treated timber is a lot safer than it used to be. But even then, I'm still not 100% happy with the chemicals that are in there. So what we'll do is we'll line the inside of this trough so we're not having that soil contact with the pressure treated timber. So we've cut the deck boards into 1 meter lengths, and we're going to make them 3 deck boards high. And what we've started doing is we've started fastening some of them together. So we've made a board, just used offcuts of timber to fasten it together, and we're going to start putting this whole thing together now. So once we've got the front piece fastened together to make one thick board, we're going to start prepping the screws for the side attachments. So we've got Mufti Abu Sharahil doing the screwing, and he's working on putting them all together one by one. It's about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches square, and these are going to be the corner supports for our raised bed. And what we're doing here is we're taking the end pieces and we're fastening the end pieces onto these corner supports, and these are going to be what joins the corners of the front and back of the bed to the sides. So Mufti Abu Sharahil is screwing them in. Mufti, give us a wave. Walaikum salam. So that's the last few screws going in, and we've got ourselves our trough ready. Now the next thing to do is to line it. So we'll line it, and we'll get some plastic in there. And what we're going to use is we're going to use the old compost bags that we bought the compost in. So we went down to one of the local garden centres and we picked up a couple of bags of compost. We brought one for tubs and hanging baskets and one normal multi-purpose. We want to mix the two together. And what we're going to do is we bought the one for tubs and hanging baskets because it's a little bit cheaper than the one for just the ordinary multi-purpose. And what we've done is we've cut round, the compost bag all the way around, so we can have one big piece of plastic that we can use to line our trough with. So if you just want to lift that off and open up the compost just like a nice big chocolate cake. All I'm doing is I'm taking the compost bag, and I don't have access to a staple gun right now, so I'm just using a normal stapler, paper stapler. And because it's softwood, it's going in okay, and it should hold this bag in place fine. I've just folded it in. You can staple the bottom in if you want to, not a problem, just to hold it in place. So this lining of the trough, the reason that we're lining it is to give the wood some longevity. And if it comes out that in the long run there are still nasty chemicals in pressure treated timber, it'll just preserve those chemicals from leaching into the soil. We've used screws as well in building the trough, so it holds the wood in place rather than nails. The teeth on the screws will hold that wood together and stop it from pulling apart, because the soil's going to get very heavy once we start watering into this. We're going to get the other bag open and we'll line the rest of this trough just around here, and then we'll start filling it with some cardboard. And this is going to break down over time, and this will hold moisture. It'll allow the soil to retain some of that moisture when we're pouring on. Instead of it just falling straight out the bottom, it'll hold on to it a little bit more. It'll hold on to it like a sponge. So I've lined it with cardboard, and the way we're going to set this up is we're going to set it up like a hugelkultur bed. So I found a couple of rotting logs, and we're going to stick these in here as well. Twigs, some bark. I'm going to stick all that in there. The way hugelkultur works is wood holds on to moisture. It sucks water up like a sponge. So what will happen is when we water this, all this wood will hold on to that moisture, and it'll release it back to the soil over time as the plants need it. But as well as that, this is going to break down, it's going to rot, and it's going to break down, and it's going to continue to feed the soil. So I really like hugelkultur style beds, especially in a plant pot. And it's also a good way of filling a trough like this, because it can get, if you've got 4 or 5 of these, it can get very expensive very quickly to fill 4 or 5 of these with just compost. And I never recommend filling one of these kind of troughs with just compost, because you're going to waste so much money just on filling it. And you can fill it with this kind of stuff. Kitchen scraps would have been brilliant. If we'd have saved kitchen scraps up for a month, that would have been absolutely fantastic to go into this. Leaves. So I've got a couple of old plants that have been thrown out that look like they've died. So a couple of plants that have been thrown out. The compost from them, that's going into the bottom of this. That's going to help us just fill the bottom of this compost for a relatively inexpensive amount. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start filling this up with compost. And we're going to use the hanging basket compost and the pot compost that we've got, because that's made for holding on to moisture, and with one of these kind of troughs, that's the kind of compost you want. So we're just filling the whole trough up with the potting compost now, so the one that's made for hanging baskets and pots. So we've got our first layer of the potting soil in, and now what Mufti Sab's doing is he's filling up the rest of the rest of the trough with multi-purpose, lots and lots of multi-purpose. And we're going to fill that all the way up to, so it's about ½ an inch from the top, because this is going to settle, so we've got to allow for that, and we've got to come back in and top it up afterwards as well. So I've got some 8-foot bamboo canes, and I've just stuck them in at the back here, and we're going to grow some runner beans up this. And the good thing about growing runner beans in an enclosed space like this is, because the legumes, they're going to take nitrogen from the air and they're going to attach it to the soil. The legumes will have root nodules, nitrogen nodules on their roots. The bacteria will come and eat that and release that nitrogen back to the soil, and they'll grow into some really lovely, they'll feed the rest of the plants while they're producing beans for us. And it's a really good beginner's crop as well. I'm going to let Mufti Sab plant these himself. And I brought some plants as presents now for him. So I brought him a pumpkin, I brought him a couple of sunflowers, I brought him some aubergines, some tomatoes, and a chilli as well. We're going to stick all of that into this bed. You're going to think it's quite cramped for the bed that we're in, but I assure you, because we've put in a lot of fresh compost and we're going to keep feeding this soil, we can grow all that food into the space that we're dealing with, because of the way we're going to be growing. So these are the first vegetables that you've ever grown? Yeah. Okay, so how are you feeling excited?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you can stick your label in.
Is there any particular way to plant it?
The way we've got is we've got four canes. So the space that we're in, I'd plant 4 beans, 1 bean each at the base of. No, don't plant it that way. I'll show you the way to plant it. Now you want to plant it so the eye is facing down. So if the way you want to plant it is so the eye is facing down, and you want to plant it horizontally. So if you push it down about 1 inch, and that's it, 1 at the base of each cane. That's it, 1 at the base of each cane, and then they'll grow up these canes, and they won't interfere with the rest of the plants that you're dealing with. So stick your label in, and there's your runner beans. Nice. And what variety of runner beans are we planting here? So these are Scarlet Emperor. They're a heavy cropper. I really like these, and I think they'll do well here. So the other thing that we're planting here is, I brought him some sunflower plants. I'm going to get these planted in here as well. So there's a couple of sunflowers, and they've been planted close together, so we'll get these in. So 1 into that space there, and you might be thinking this is very close together, but I assure you, you can grow all of this into this area. I'm going to take this pumpkin, I'm going to stick it right in this corner. Oops, let me get in there. There we go. And what I want with this pumpkin is, I want this pumpkin to grow over the edge and use the flow. So it's going to feed off the soil, but it's going to grow onto the floor, and it's not going to impact the rest of these plants. So if any shoots come off this way, you're going to snip them off. You only want the shoots that go that way, okay? So you've still got lots of growing space here. Now the other plants that we've got some aubergines. Now these aubergines, so these are a variety called Italian long purple, and these grow into thin plants but tall plants. So what I'm going to do is, just in front of my runner beans, these are going in. So I can grow 2 of these in this space. They're going to grow quite tall. But I'll get these both in. There we go. And another plant that I'm going to get in here is I'm going to get a tomato in. And we're going to grow these tomatoes on a cordon, so it's going to be a single stem. And again, it's going to grow tall rather than across. And as long as we keep feeding this soil, it'll be fine. And remember, with tomatoes, always plant them deep. So you saw how big that plant was, and look how much is going under the soil. You want to grow these as single stem. Go back and watch my tomato planting video, and you'll see how I single stem these and grow them as a cordon. I'm going to stick a chili just here, right at the front. And the reason I'm sticking it right at the front is because those aubergines are going to grow. The chili's never going to grow as tall as them, and that's going to be a nice little arena for this bed. You know, we're going to have aubergines growing up, runner beans shooting up the top at the back. This chili is going to get to about this high, and it'll grow at the front. It's not going to interfere with the aubergines. The tomato is going to grow probably about 3 to 4 foot. Is going to grow the tomato. So you're going to do some planting yourself now. Now what I want you to do is open those spinach seeds. See the way you rip that packet. Now the bad thing about the way you rip that packet is if you pick the packet up again, look what you've thrown away. You've thrown away all the instructions on when to plant. That's one of the worst things about opening the, so be careful when you open the packet, just snip it at the bottom, or you can just undo that and keep the packet, store the packet upside down, and that'll keep you, you know.
Now what I would normally say is only the world's greatest scientist makes that mistake, and I get it.
So now what I want you to do is I want you to take your finger and draw one drill straight line. A bit further back, no. So I want you to draw a line like this into the soil. A bit deeper than that though. So keep a straight line. Not that deep. You don't need to go that deep. All the way up to that pumpkin. That's it. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take some spinach, and I want you to plant those seeds every couple of inches. I want you to plant a couple of seeds. Don't see, that's what you don't do. All those seeds need to be spread out.
Oh, one seed at a time.
Yeah. So what you've done there is you've planted it. You just dumped a load of seeds. Don't do that. So one seed every couple of inches. And those seeds that you've exposed to the soil, don't put them back into the packet, because what will end up happening is they'll sprout in the packet and they'll ruin the rest of your seeds. So just spread them across there. That's it. Just take them out. We'll plant them somewhere else. Now gently cover them up with about a centimetre of soil. So if you cover them up with about a centimetre of soil, that's it. Use the other side because that side is going to fall in. Yeah, that's it. Now your job is to water this all. I'd push that soil back. Yeah, push that soil back. Take that soil from the front, get it up to the back, and there you go. So now you're going to give this bed a good water. So start off where you watered the beans, at the roots of the plants. The reason that you're watering now, especially around the mature plants, is to get the soil settled in around the roots. So you want to give it a good dose of water. So get all that settled in. That's it. And I'm sure you'll send us pictures over the next few weeks on how your plants are progressing, and when you start having a harvest, you can invite us over and we can all have a feast. Mufti Saab was inspired watching our videos during lockdown, and now that we've had the lockdown rules relaxed, we've been able to come out and we've been able to set this little garden up for him. So we'll keep doing these kind of projects, and if you need help and advice, do get in contact and we'll see what we can do and what we can arrange. Remember, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like for me. I'll see you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.